At 3:53 a.m. today, the sky over Eastern Europe lit up. A cargo jet turned into a fireball. It wasn't an accident. It was a precise strike. Ukrainian. Clean. Final. That blast did more than bring down a plane. It tore open a secret weapons pipeline worth $1.2 billion. The pipeline began in North Korea at the order of Kim Jong-un. It was built to feed Russia's war in Ukraine. Today we break down how Ukraine found it, hit it, and turned a hidden alliance into a public disaster. For months, rumors swirled. North Korea was sending Russia artillery shells, rockets, and even short-range missiles. The shipments moved through front companies in East Asia. Boxes called industrial equipment hid warheads and launch hardware. Western agencies suspected the routes, but that night gave the first hard proof. Ukraine had reached the network's core. By mid-2024, Russia's main stockpiles were low. The Kremlin leaned on a tight circle. Iran sent drones. China helped with money flows and tech parts. North Korea became the last-ditch supplier. Old munitions, still deadly, still useful. Sanctions had squeezed his economy. Cash and oil were scarce. He could trade arms for both. So in early 2025, Pyongyang began stealth shipments, surface-to-surface missiles, 122 mm and 152 mm shells, specialized tank ammo, parts for multiple launch rocket systems, even components for small drones are used up front. The route was layered. North Korean ports sent cargo under civilian cover. Manifests used vague labels. Ships hopped through Chinese and Middle Eastern hubs. Documents were swapped. Flags were changed. From there, the cargo moved by sea towards the Black Sea, or by air on flights that dodged NATO radar corridors. One of those flights became the target. Russian media first called it a technical failure, but the data said otherwise. Military transport flew from a Syrian airfield used by Russia. Its transponder went dark near Ukrainian-watched airspace. Minutes later, US infrared satellites caught a bright flare. It matched a missile hit. Wreckage fell. The cargo went with it. The manifest said industrial equipment. NATO sources said the truth. North Korean short-range ballistic missiles, warheads, and ammunition. This wasn't a routine resupply. It was phase 2 in a multi-billion-dollar deal. A package was sketched when Kim met Russian leaders the year before. Kiev stayed quiet on details. Officials hinted at a blended operation, precision weapons, an upgraded air defense and anti-missile network, targeting fed by Western intel streams, real-time tracking, coordination with Allied surveillance assets, approval from the top of Ukraine's command. It wasn't a single shipment, it was a message. Ukraine could reach beyond the trenches. It could cut Russia's lifelines, even when those lines hid behind false names and foreign flags. North Korea's state media roared. It called the strike provocative aggression. It warned of consequences. Inside the regime, the tone was different. Analysts say the loss hurt, money gone, secrecy broken. The network is exposed. Such a violation is rare in Pyongyang. It shakes control. The Kremlin faced a bad choice. Admit the strike and show dependence on North Korean arms, or deny and watch the story unravel. It tried denial. It said frontline operations were unaffected, but intercepts and satellite images told another story. Artillery units in eastern Ukraine reported shortages soon after the blast. Morale dipped. Officers questioned the supply chain. Trust cracked. Allies took note. The US and Europe pointed to fresh sanctions breaches by Pyongyang. The UN Security Council met. New penalties were debated. Pressure rose. North Korea was at the center of a global storm, not for a nuclear test, for arming another country's war. Leaked NATO summaries filled in the picture. The $1.2 billion deal worked in phases to dodge attention. North Korea sent missiles, shells, and drone parts. Russia paid in food, oil, and technology. Satellite guidance was a key task from Pyongyang. It wanted better accuracy for its own missiles. The downed shipment was central. Missile warheads, launch hardware. Losing it hurt both sides. For Ukraine's partners, the operation looked months in the making. Signals intercepts, satellite tasking, cyber access into flight logistics used by Russian contractors. Piece by piece, Kyiv mapped the route and the timing. Ukraine has grown in the shadows of this war. Its electronic warfare sharpened, its counterintelligence matured, NATO's fusion centers helped. Data came fast and clean. Together they tracked long-range transfers. The mid-air kill was the payoff. Human sources, cyber tools, eyes in space, precision on the trigger. Russian outlets talked about malfunctions. Independent trackers mapped the path and the debris field. The route matched known supply runs. Press briefings in Moscow turned tense. Questions piled up. Answers got defensive. Pyongyang went quiet. Then it changed its tune at home. Propaganda cut back on praise of Russia. It pushed self-reliance again. Satellite shots of Rajin port showed cargo slowing to a stop. The regime looked rattled. It needed time to find the leak. The contract was one of North Korea's biggest since the 1990s. Payment was mixed. Oil, machinery, likely some cash. That inflow was meant to soften sanctions. After the strike, payments froze. Insurers backed away from shady shippers. Front companies scrambled. The pipeline is clogged. The damage to Moscow was beyond numbers. The illusion of self-sufficiency cracked. Internal probes began. Who let Ukraine go so far? Was there a mole? Was cyber hygiene weak? The Ministry of Defense and the FSB reportedly argued. Finger-pointing spread. On the ground, units near Avdiivka and Bakhmut rationed shells. Old Soviet stocks were pooled and repurposed. It looked desperate. It felt worse. Washington and Brussels condemned the transfers. Patrols tightened around suspect ships. Japan and South Korea raised an alarm over regional lanes. Europe blacklisted Russian logistics and aviation firms linked to the trade. Countries in Africa and Latin America eyed distance. No one wanted the same spotlight. Beijing tried to stay neutral, but threads pointed toward Chinese soil. Paper trails linked shell companies in Dalian and Qingdao to the cargo. China dismissed the claims. Still, the optics were bad. The timing was worse. Beijing does not want heat on grey networks that help partners skirt rules. That night, President Zelensky didn't name the strike. He didn't need to. When the forces of darkness rely on secrecy, he said, truth and precision become our most powerful weapons. Ukraine had shifted from reacting to shaping. This was a modern war at work. Information-driven deterrence. You win by seeing first, by sharing fast, by hitting clean. Ukraine showed a smaller nation can break a bigger one's plan with timing, data, and nerve. Think tanks gave it a label, the Rajin intercept. Rajin, the North Korean port, many believe, was the origin. The name stuck. It captured the bigger idea. Authoritarian secrecy collapses under hard light and tight intel loops. The regime paid more than the value of one load. Arms exports are its lifeline. Exposure scares buyers. Patrols increase. Tracking improves. Each sale is riskier. Kim reportedly called an Emergency State Affairs Commission meeting. Crisis mode, plug leaks, hide deeper, trust fewer partners. Hard to do when the world is watching. In Moscow, faith in foreign suppliers faded. Iran kept sending drones, but routes got harder. Rumors said Ukraine's reach could touch the Middle East. That alone forces costly detours. Nowhere is safe, one analyst said. Maybe not true, but the fear is real. At the UN, even India and Brazil voiced concern. Not about picking sides, about secret routes fueling wars. Odd bedfellows found rare unity. Russia had backed old sanctions on North Korea. Now it was breaking them. The irony was sharp. For Ukrainians, the news raised spirits. The war is long. Daily strikes grind people down. This win felt different. It showed reach. It showed control. It showed that brainpower can beat brute force. Pride spiked. Resolve hardened. Troops felt the opposite. Supplies that were promised didn't come. Ammunition was thin. Rations of fire dropped. Commanders blamed delays. Soldiers heard another word: empty. Doubt spreads fast. The story threatened to blow up a fragile balance. Beijing seeks to support Moscow, but not alienate the West. Exposure of front firms complicates that. It invites sanctions on banks, brokers, shippers. It draws scrutiny to tech routed through China that ends in war. NATO analysts marked 3 pillars of success. 1. Persistent satellite tasking over suspect nodes. 2. Cyber access to flight planning and cargo docks. 3. Kill chains that link a sensor to a shooter without delay. Ukraine didn't need to own every piece of it. It needed to integrate them. It did. Russia will try new routes. Africa, Latin America, dark fleets, more false flags, more middlemen. But the price just rose. Every alias is a clue. Every extra hop adds delay. Complexity creates seams, and seams can be ruptured. North Korea will tighten controls. Smaller, denser shipments, more reliance on trusted partners, more questions about China. Yet the fear of another exposure hangs over every deal. In a 2-hour window before sunrise, the narrative shifted. Ukraine was not just defending, it was hunting. It was shaping what Russia could do far from the front. It made both regimes look weak together. A superpower begging, a pariah selling. Both caught. The wreckage will be cleared. The footage will fade. But the lesson will last. Intelligence beats secrecy when the network is fast and the aim is true. Precision beats volume when every shot counts. And resolve beats bluster when survival is on the line. This was not just a plane, it was a lifeline. It snapped, and with it, the myth of an untouchable alliance. If you found this breakdown useful, subscribe for more clear, fact-packed deep dives. See you at the next one.